My name is Maria Merchant, and welcome to another Tecsys in Conversation. In this interview, we'll be speaking with Rick Watkinson, Senior Product Manager at Tecsys. In his 30-plus year career, Rick has touched on every aspect of supply chain logistics. He has a wealth of knowledge cultivated both at Tecsys and through a number of high-profile logistic companies. As the supply chain evolves, distributors are looking at automation to help them address key challenges. That includes fulfilling rapidly changing customer demands, addressing labor shortages, and of course, maintaining a competitive edge. There's a lot of talk about automation going around, and today we're going to dig a little deeper to find out what it means for the future of your operations. So, thank you for joining me today, Rick. Before we dive into our conversation about warehouse automation, can you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. My name is Rick Watkinson. I'm a senior product manager with Tecsys. It always amazes me when I hear that kind of introduction. I really start to feel old, 30 plus years in the industry, absolutely. But I will say I did start while I was young, so I've got that going for me. Most of my experience has been around logistics in the supply chain. My first job, I remember doing a physical inventory paper-based system and thought that was pretty cool. From there, we progressed and developed one of the first RF-based WMSs for a major pharmaceutical chain, worldwide pharmaceutical chain, to be run in Canada. And when I saw that and was involved in that development, I was hooked. I knew my path in life, and I was going to pursue this.
As mentioned earlier, the newest buzzword is automation. It can be quite overwhelming. So, can you describe how you should start your automation journey?
Yeah, certainly. That is the buzzword of today. I mean, automation. You hear it everywhere. It's interesting in the what's gone on in the last couple of years with the pandemic. If you mentioned the word supply chain, 5 years ago, people would look at you and say, what is that? But with the pandemic, what we've seen is the supply chain has been elevated to, the 6 o'clock news. You see disruptions in the supply chain. You see stuck, trucks or ships stuck in the Suez Canal affecting supply chain bottlenecks. You hear it all. But automation itself, it's not a new concept from a logistics or a supply chain perspective. I mean, it's been around for years. And when you talk automation, you're really talking two things. You're talking digital automation, which is things like automating a process such as, let's say, receiving, where you used to fill out a piece of paper and now you use an RF gun. So you're automating that data entry. Take it a step further and say voice. You're automating the fact you don't have to type it in now, you're using the voice. So that's a form of automation. But the form of automation that we're hearing a lot about today is the physical automation. Robotics, robots, things that help the human being move product in the supply chain, in the warehouse. And that's really what you're hearing when you hear the term, or you're thinking about when you hear the term robotics. If you take the physical side of automation, you're talking about robotics. You're talking about things like an ASRS, automated storage and retrieval system. You're talking about cobots that follow you around the warehouse to help you do your job, shuttle systems, things like that. But to start this journey, you need to really start with the problem. What are you trying to solve? When you start looking at that, look for very manual processes that have a high likelihood of error. Look for things that are critical to your business. So if something can't happen because people are out, that becomes a criticality to your business. The other thing you've got to do is define your goal. What do you expect out of automation? Because it's a different experience for everybody.
Yes.
So is there an ROI you expect? Define those things up front and communicate those to your leadership to get buy-in to the product. The most important thing here is one size does not fit all. So you've probably seen these Amazon videos where these Kiva robots are bringing, pickers things and they're picking, and these kind of AMRs are running around the warehouse and doing things that the human being would do. Well, that may be fine for Amazon, but that might not fit your business. So again, one size does not fit all. Do your research, figure out what is going to make sense for you. And from a research perspective, use your partners in your ecosystem. Use your trusted technology partners. You may have some automation in there already. Talk to those people. You may have a WMS software system in there. That's a resource you can use as well. But above all, do your research and do your homework.
Rick, with talk of automation and digital applications, what does automation mean for the supply chain and for distributors?
I look at it this way. I mean, if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's expect the unexpected. So you look at some companies out there, they've literally had to shut down their distribution operations for various reasons. Other companies had to scale back, again, for different reasons. They may not be able to get staff, they may not be able to get parts, etc. While other entities saw just a massive spike volume in what they had to get out the door. So as much as we try, we can't plan for every instance that is going to come our way. Whether it's a result of the pandemic, convergence in the supply chain, or other factors we can't even see, the operations today need to be very agile. We need to be very nimble. We need to get rid of redundant processes and be as efficient as possible. This is going to help us take those issues that come with us, those problems, those unforeseen circumstances, and be able to deal with them in a more timely basis. And automation for sure. This can help with those changing dynamics. Like I said, we want to eliminate redundant tasks. We want to respond quickly to changing things in our supply chain. We really want our supply chain of the business to become an opportunity center and not necessarily a problem or a cost center that is going to affect the way the business runs.
Yeah, those are really valid points. One of the main objectives of launching automation is to reduce costs and minimize manual tasks. So, how does automation fit into the business's warehouse operations?
I think the best way to answer that is if we take an example. And let's take the example of picking. Now, picking product for orders, that accounts for upwards of 60% of a warehouse's labor. And if we can take that and reduce that in any way, shape, or form, obviously there's going to be cost savings, there's going to be productivity improvements, etc. So let's look at that picker's day. He probably starts his day on the receiving dock or the shipping dock. He gets his work to do. He goes for a walk out to the location where he's going to pick stuff. He might fill his cart or his pallet up, and then he goes for a walk back to the dock. So those walks to and from the dock, those are non-value added services. Those don't bring any value into the equation. So if we can get rid of those and let automation help with those things, we're going to increase that picker's productivity and his value to the company. There's other examples such as, if we're in a manufacturing environment and product is coming off the line, typically what we have to do is we have to have a person designated to grab that stuff off the line, bring it to a receiving dock to receive into the warehouse and store it or cross dock or whatever the case may be. But with the technology we have out there, with AGVs and AMRs and these different types of robotic transportation systems, we can literally have an unmanned AGV come grab that pallet and bring it to the spot that it's supposed to be. So we're reducing that dependency on the human being for that redundant task and giving it to automation. Another example, you probably heard this with the pandemic, cleaning bots. With COVID, there's so many different protocols out there. Do we really want the human being to have to go and clean that warehouse? There are automated cleaning bots now that can help us with this process. However, one of the driving factors that we've seen recently in the pandemic, it's not necessarily trying to increase the efficiency of that labor. It may be to take that labor and use the automation to do the job because you can't get labor. It's become more expensive, absolutely. But that makes the assumption that you can find people. And you've probably seen some ads out there. Amazon was hiring. I think there was about a $3,000 bonus, different vacation levels. So there's a real competition for warehousing talent out there. And if we can take automation and fill some of those gaps with automation and not necessarily rely on people, that's what some of the companies are looking for out of automation today.
So, what should supply chains look for when it comes to automation? And how do you decide what type of automation is right for your warehouse?
Again, I've said this before, one size does not fit all. That's the key to this, right? Because there's so many different types of automation, you have to make the decision on what is right for you. So is your operation pallet in, pallet out? Is it cases in, cases out? Are you an e-com fulfillment center? What are your volumes? All these things go into the decision on what makes sense for your operation. Again, define your problem, what you're trying to solve. Is that problem something like I cannot staff the warehouse? I can't get people to staff the warehouse. Is the warehouse associates that I get, are they too expensive? Do I need to reduce costs? Am I trying to reduce redundant, meaningless tasks from that supply chain operation? So again, one size does not fit all. Define your problem and then look at your warehouse, the layout of your warehouse that you have today. Are you staying in that warehouse or are you going to build a new warehouse and have automation as part of that build? If you're going to stay in the warehouse, you're probably not looking at putting in an ASRS with a huge footprint and a lot of work around, reconfiguring that warehouse. You might look at AMRs and cobots that help the associate do the job better without disrupting that entire warehouse layout. So there's a lot of factors that go into what you're going to pick and what type of automation is right for your warehouse.
And it's no secret that it's essential to stay ahead of the competition. So, how does automation work with warehousing software?
Yeah, ideally the warehousing software that you're running, your WMS, and the automation pieces that you have in your warehouse need to work as one. The warehouse management system needs to treat your automation as another entity that can get things done. So in your warehouse today, you have a workforce, human being workforce. Think about that workforce as not just human beings, but automation equipment now as well. So you may have cobots that help that human being work. You may have AMRs or AGVs that are taking inventory from one area to the other. The warehouse management system can start to drive this stuff. So instead of assigning a move task from the manufacturing area to the receiving area and telling a human being to go do it, that warehouse software can start telling or indicating to a robotic or an automation piece of software, go take this and bring it over to a different part of the warehouse. So ideally, your warehouse management system starts to look at all of these different aspects that you have in your facility as tools to get a job done.
And once you've invested in the right automation for your warehouse, how does it improve operations and, of course, reduce costs?
Oh, there's a long list. I mean, automation itself, the ROI on automation in the long run is extremely high. Yes, the cost of these things can be high, but in the last couple of years, that's really come down. So some of the improvements you're going to see, lower overall operating costs. That's for sure, right? We talked about the travel time thing. So if I can take 50% of a picker's job away and I don't have to do the travel time thing now, that in theory is going to double his productivity. So you're going to reduce your overall labor costs. Better overall fulfillment. In today's world, the distribution center is not that static entity that it was 5 years ago. You've got a lot of fluctuations. You may have 20,000 orders one morning and 50,000 orders the next morning. So the automation is going to aid in you fulfilling those orders, increasing your fulfillment time, customer satisfaction, the whole thing. You can also look at automation from a warehouse space utilization. Something like an ASRS or a VLM, vertical lift module, they take a very small footprint in your warehouse, but they store a lot of products. So you may look at this from a perspective of the warehouse is overfilled and we need to get more space rather than going out. We can start going up and using some of this automation equipment to increase warehouse space. The automation also reduces errors. Every touch point that a human being is involved is a potential touch point for an error. That's not so when you get into robotics, automation, and the likes of those. Um, some side benefits. It's going to increase your overall employee satisfaction by reducing those tasks that nobody really wants to do. You're going to get a happier workforce. You're going to attract more talent to your workforce. You could potentially start to also eliminate, absenteeism and injuries because robotics will do that heavy lifting for you or get the product to you rather than some picker having to go up, to a level 5 type of thing and reach over and grab product or whatever the case may be. So The benefits of automation, they're numerous, and I could probably give you a list a lot longer than that, but that's some of the highlights.
That's fantastic, Rick. Thank you. Uh, Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge, your expertise with us, spending time with us today. It's been extremely informative. And thank you to our viewers. If you need support with introducing automation in your warehouse, Tecsys is here to help. At the end of this video, you have the option to speak to one of our supply chain experts, or you can access the infographic on Warehouse Automation 101. Thank you for watching.